The Bible isn't just a book of random stories. It's 66 different books that come together to tell one story. An incredible one about God's love for us. And now for an amazing story inspired by the book of Genesis, chapter 42.
Long before, Joseph's older brothers had sold him as a slave. Even though he'd faced difficult years in Egypt, Joseph still continued to trust God. And at the right time, God brought Joseph out of prison and gave him a great position of power in Egypt. In fact, Joseph was only second in command after Pharaoh and in charge of all the food supplies in the land.
Send someone to open up bin 572.
Joseph had worked hard to store up grains for the whole country. Now a terrible famine arrived, and all the crops in Egypt failed. People in nearby lands were hungry too, including Joseph's own father and brothers in Canaan.
We're about to starve.
Well, yeah, there's no food.
Don't just sit there looking at each other. I've heard there's grain in Egypt. Go buy some for us.
Jacob's youngest son, Benjamin, jumped up.
Road trip! Not you, Ben. I mean Simeon, Judah, everyone else.
Oh, Dad.
But Jacob stood firm. Only the 10 older brothers set out for Egypt on their donkeys. When they arrived in Egypt, they bowed low before Joseph, just as he had seen in his own dream so many years before.
My brothers!
Though Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't know who he was. He even pretended not to know their language and spoke to them through an interpreter.
Where do you come from? We're all brothers who came from Canaan to buy food.
Joseph wanted to test his brothers, so he didn't reveal who he was.
Is your father alive? What about your youngest brother? Both living, but spies. I say you're all spies.
We're just hungry is all.
Prove it. One of you must stay here in prison while the rest of you go home and bring back your brother. Then I'll believe you.
Joseph had Simeon tied up and then sent the other brothers home with grain and food for the journey. When they stopped for the night, Judah reached into his sack to get food for his donkey.
My money! They gave it back! Something's not right.
When the brothers arrived home, they told Jacob everything that had happened as they unloaded their sacks of grain.
They gave my money back too. Everyone's money. What have you done? We're in serious trouble. We have to go back for Simeon. We have to take Benjamin. I've already lost Joseph. Now Simeon, and you want to take Benjamin too? I don't think so.
So the brothers stayed home, but soon the grain they brought from Egypt was gone.
Go back. Buy more food. You know we can't without Benjamin. I promised to keep him safe. No! Impossible! Not a chance! Well, okay.
Road trip.
Take lots of gifts, and twice the money you took before. May God cause this man to show you mercy.
Once more, the brothers traveled the long road to Egypt. This time, Joseph invited them to a meal at his own home and released Simeon to join them.
What took you guys so long?
When Joseph arrived, they all bowed low again. He was overcome to see his youngest brother, Benjamin.
May God be gracious to you, my son.
Joseph was so moved, he had to leave the room for a few minutes to weep. When he returned, he ordered his servants to give Benjamin 5 times as much food as the others.
I love road trips.
But Joseph wasn't quite through testing his brothers yet. He told his manager to fill their sacks with grain and give their money back again. But this time he told him to hide his own special silver cup in Benjamin's sack. The brothers were only a few miles down the road when Joseph sent his manager after them.
Stop, rogues! One of you has taken my master's silver cup.
We would never do that. Search our sacks and see.
As you wish. But if one of you has the cup, you will become my slave. Aha!
In moments, the manager pulled the silver cup from Benjamin's sack.
I so don't love road trips.
The brothers were so upset they tore their clothes and went back to the city to appear before Joseph.
What have you done? We have no way to prove we haven't done something wrong. So, make us all your slaves.
Of course not.
Just the man who stole the cup. We can't do that. Our father already had a son killed by wild animals. If he sees Benjamin isn't with us when we return, he'll die. I promised to keep Benjamin safe. So,
Let me be your slave instead.
Joseph couldn't hide the truth any longer. He ordered everyone but his brothers to leave the room.
I am Joseph.
The brothers were stunned. Joseph had been a kid when they sold him as a slave so long ago. Now, God had put him in charge of a whole country.
Don't be upset. Don't be angry with yourselves. God sent me ahead of you to save many lives.
As Joseph spoke, he knew it was true. Even in the darkest moments, when he was kidnapped and lied about and left in prison, he knew God was still with him. God was still working on his plan.
Come live here, you and all your families. There's going to be 5 more years without enough food, but if you live here, I can give you everything you need.
Joseph hugged his brother Benjamin, and both men wept.
Actually, I like road trips.
The brothers returned home and gave the amazing news to their father.
My son Joseph is still alive. I'll go and see him before I die.
So Jacob and Joseph's whole family moved to Egypt to live. Because God raised Joseph to a position of power, his family had enough to eat, and God grew them from a single family into an entire nation of people.